World-class guests, fascinating stories, inspiring messages. Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about educating ourselves. I'm delighted to welcome special guest Rashni Hewawasam.
You did.
Rashni is an entrepreneur, mental health coach, author, humanitarian, and host of the podcast Tao Podcast, The Pandemic Press. You can reach Rashni at her website, taoac.net, and I'll include a link in the description. Welcome, Rashni. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
It's an honor to be here.
I am so excited to be able to be talking with you from far, far away. You are quite the world traveler, being born in Sri Lanka, receiving a scholarship to a prestigious medical university in, you were in Romania.
Yeah.
Now you're living in France. So I would love to hear your story. You're just everywhere.
Yeah, because the thing is that I believe in something that things happen for a reason and everybody is following their destiny. So it just like when we were born into a world, and then we were given this sort of conditioning. So we didn't exactly know what we wanted, but for me, I just wanted to help people a lot. I have this intense desire to help people. It can be any way possible, but for me, it would be like a huge thing if I could help people. I still help people in the streets. I donate clothes. I still in various ways I help people. Even I help my mom with the cooking and stuff like this. But I was born into a very strict culture, and that culture. The moment I told my mom that I love helping people, I don't know what is it. It's this intense desire to help people. And my mom said, surely that means you are a doctor, because doctors help people. And that's what we've learned in our conditioning and society in general. One of the best careers in the world is to do medicine. And it's the second world's most hardest course. And it's really tough to get into, especially coming from an island like Sri Lanka. Like, we are considered last and in the priority list. So we are expected to have like really high grades. And since we've been colonized by Britain long time ago, we follow the British syllabus. So I was very fortunate to actually attend the best schools in my life. Even though my parents I wasn't coming from an extremely rich family. It's just that we had something called, we had a family kind of inheritance like gems, because it was widely abundant in my country. And it's some of the bestowed gifts, I would say. But I'm not, other than that, I'm not coming from a wealthy family in general. So my dad really worked hard, tried his best to provide me with the best education possible. And I worked hard for what I really wanted. And as you can see, I really like to learn. I really it doesn't matter the subject, it's I love learning. And because of that, sort of admiration, I think I really learned everything I had to in order to get a scholarship. I mean, science is a really, really tough course. And especially when you are choosing it, and I didn't know I was going to a tough course. But I had certain abilities I wasn't aware of. When I was 4 years old, I kind of mastered my own mother tongue, and nobody kind of taught me my mother tongue. My first language is English, because my mom thought that it would be better if I actually learned English first, because everybody else speaks in English, and to communicate with foreigners, you need English. And that's why she taught me English. She was so concentrated for me to actually develop my vocabulary in order to speak with everybody around the world. She had this kind of motive that I wasn't meant to just be in Sri Lanka. So she's like, she feels like she would actually teach me and focus on English so much, but I kind of, at the age of 4, I knew what my parents were talking about because I connected their actions to their words.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I know what you're talking about. And so I could speak too. At 4, I was like speaking my own mother tongue, and my mom was like, I didn't teach her.
That is beautiful. And do you also speak Romanian and French as well?
Yeah, I studied Romanian for a year. So like I kind of know like Romanian a bit, but my French is more better, I would say, because I learned French ever since I was in grade 2. We had to choose a language. And it was like at grade 2, I was like automatically in the advanced Sinhalese class. That's our mother tongue. So I just went there. It's like it just happened. It's like the teacher said, your vocabulary skills are good, so I have to put you in the advanced class. So I just came there by accident. I'm supposed to be in the I'm supposed to be in the supportive, but I just came here by accident. And she said that your vocabulary is good, so you have to be in the advanced class, not the beginners class. And she put me there, and she's like, it doesn't matter if you can write. If you can't write now, you will learn that. And she put me in the advanced class. And I chose French because for me it was more easier. Like because in English and French you have the same letters. In my my mother tongue, we have like more than 27 letters. We have almost 67 or something like that.
Whoa.
And it's completely different letters. It's like my Romanian friends calls it fruits because they look really round.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what is the native language of Sri Lanka?
Sinhalese, because we are like it's a Buddhist country and consists of 71% Sinhalese. And then we have other languages like Tamil as well.
That's
It's yeah.
languages have come to you very, very naturally, and you studied very, very, very hard and put so much effort into it. And you have always had this beautiful, innate desire to serve. And your mother naturally assumed that that meant that you would be going into the medical profession. And you
Yes.
did receive a scholarship. So not only were you accepted into medical school, but they wanted to pay for your medical school so that you could do this. I'm kind of curious why you chose Romania. But then at some point during your studies, you changed your mind and decided that that was not your life calling and that that was not the way that you wanted to help lift and serve others. So I'm curious about what's the next step in the story here.
It's a long story and very interesting one. So buckle up. Yes. So like I studied really hard, and at the beginning, like I wasn't really good at math, and I had only my uncle to teach me, and my parents could afford extra tuition. So it was my uncle who was teaching me, and then like at the age of 15, I was doing like physics maths instead of doing like physics, which was I didn't know. I think because I was this one of these curious, like driven students. If I take the entire like textbook, math textbook, I did all of the sums in the textbook. I didn't even miss one.
Wow.
I was really like focused. I am also anemic. I was anemic from a really young age, and people would tell me that if the anemia got worsened, I wouldn't be able to concentrate or focus or attain memory. But like I somehow managed to adapt. You know.
I'm so glad. So you got accepted to Romania, and now you're in school. And I would imagine you'd have to speak Romanian really well to attend college there. So did you study first and then go, or did you study
Yeah.
Romanian while you were there?
Yeah, so wait, this is a long story. So the thing is that at first I tried to apply for the UK. Um, and I did like one of the most hardest exams in the world. It's called Bmat. It's the entrance exam for like top universities in the UK and top medical universities in the UK. Yeah, it's a biomedical admissions test, and I passed it with good marks. But the thing is that like there were not enough seats to go in, because when you take the UK, first of all, they first consider the UK citizens, then they consider Europeans, then the Americans, and we're kind of last in the list. So yeah, so I that didn't turn out well. That's why I accepted the scholarship, and I thought that okay, this would work out. So what was in the scholarship was like I had to study Romanian, and then I would learn how to do the courses in English, and then we had to switch afterwards the language.
Really? So
Yeah.
English is the mediator kind of.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you had that one down. All right.
So the thing is that like I was studying, and so like I had a year to myself. So the thing is that when when kids come from a really strict culture and they have a year to themselves, it's like, oh my gosh, this is freedom. It's like that feeling. It's I've never actually felt freedom in my life because I was always indoors. My parents didn't let me go out all the time. I wasn't allowed to like hang out with friends all the time, go out, have a boyfriend, that sort of lifestyle. I was like mostly indoors. I used to go from the house to school, maybe to my relation's place. And if there was a party, probably a hotel, but like really rarely. And so that was kind of my life. And the first day I was alone, okay, I was like, okay, I have freedom for myself. It's time to actually find out what the world is and what the world looks like. And for the first time, my parents always want to keep an eye on me because I'm the first child in the family. So they want to make sure like things go right with me before they go right with my two siblings. And I also tutor them as well. So I have that responsibility as an elder sister. And what I went through was like during my first years, like of med school, like I had several panic attacks, anxiety, and I was like in the verge of like getting depression. I got depression and then actually moved out of it, which is pretty cool. And there's some things happen, like I met with an accident while I was in Romania. And yeah, um, like the glass shed, I remember in the taxi, I was in the front seat, the glass shed, and it just came at me, but like for some reason, like I think it was like gods, because the gods were watching me or something. All the cuts were superficial on my head,
Oh, good.
but I was bleeding. I was bleeding heavily, and people looked at me. And it's like there was this old lady, and she took me to the pharmacy, and they put a bandage on my head, on my forehead, and I went all the way to like the Uni's hospital, and they looked at me, scanned me. I went through several procedures the entire day, and they said, thankfully, nothing has happened in your body.
Good.
Yeah. It's like, you know, that something is protecting you when these sorts of situations happen.
Yes, you have
And
a purpose.
yes. And I remember like once there was an exam. I woke up. I was living with my roommate at the time, as I woke up at 5 a.m., I stood up, and as I stood up, I fell down. I couldn't move my legs.
Oh dear.
Yeah, there were several scenarios that took place. So I was seeing blobs of like black blobs everywhere, and it's now that I think about it, it was because of the anxiety I was feeling.
I
It
see.
was it was so much. It was like on another level than normal people could comprehend, because I was going through so much in my family. It's like I had the weight of responsibility. I had I had to, because I was doing medicine now. It's kind of like all the relations are depending on me. I'm coming from that sort of culture, and it was too much for me to hold at the same time. It's that I came to that realization, and I can remember that day I was like crying and like sliding on the floor, like dragging myself, and like trying to stand up, use the bathroom door as a lever to stand up, and the wall beside it. And like I have kind of read that if you can't balance yourself, you have to balance it by puking as well. It sort of helps with the balancing, because I felt like I was shot in the spine. It
Oh,
felt like I was shot in the spine.
really?
And yeah, and it's like having, when you're in a position like that, all these thoughts that come to you, will I be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life? What will happen to me? It's like all of these sort of bad things, or so-called unfortunate events, started piling up. And actually, that day was incredible. I managed to get my legs walking. I was late for the exam, but I managed to get a 9 on 10, which is quite amazing. I
Congratulations.
mean, I didn't even think I could do that. I was as soon as I got to hear the results, it was like, it wasn't for me. It was like astounding, because I never thought I could do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And especially right after an incident where you felt like you had been shot and you
Yeah,
couldn't even stand and pull yourself up, and then to be able to function well at an exam that you arrived late to. So you must be quite an amazing student.
yes, and like I told my friends about it, and my one of my friends, like I, she knows that I write really good stuff, full of meaning, and it's full of meaning because it's true. And I have a blog about it, and I call her my human lifesaver while I was drowning in a deep, vast ocean and trying to swim at a snail's pace. And in this moment, she was like telling me, it feels like you are coping with life on another level compared to all of us. It's like if you're in level 102, we must be in level like 50 or something. And because all of this happened at once, and I also got a chance to have like to actually notice what a relationship actually feels like, so I had that responsibility as well. So I thought that like I was really fighting, to actually keep everything in my life, but I also knew that everything happens for a reason. So if it doesn't work out, it's just because you deserve something better. And I realized that my parents came after a year, and they said they came here by the French visa, and they couldn't stay in Romania for long. And because of my dad's business, he got a French visa instead of a Romanian visa, because he was a distributor for Spanish company, and since we don't have a Spanish embassy in Sri Lanka, they give you a French visa.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy. So is that how you ended up in France then?
Yeah,
Is
it's
your
kind of like,
visa French
yeah,
as well?
yeah.
I'll be darned. I would never have supposed.
and they came with French visa. So the thing is that they said like after like 2 years, they said that they were going to kind of start. My dad had this my dad had this idea that he wanted to like do well in like his whole family and stuff like that. He had like especially in the business sector. So we kind of had this idea to actually been in France ever since. We had this kind of idea ever since we were in Sri Lanka. Um, yeah, and it was just an idea, but we never knew it would come true at the time. And now that it was happening, my dad said, we are going to France and we're going to give it a chance.
And is
And
that
then,
when you left school and joined them in France?
yes, after that happened after a year.
Okay.
I joined them after 1 year. And it was crazy because I came to see them in a blizzard. It's like I left the country and I came to France. There was a blizzard. I had to wait 8 hours for my flight, and then which was delayed for 8 hours. And everybody who was working in the flight told me that my flight has been cancelled, but I did not listen to them, and I just went to the terminal and to see that the flight was actually just delayed for 8 hours.
Mm.
It's like the people didn't know. I just didn't trust the people.
So
And
what have you been doing now that you're in France and you've
yes,
changed and your family, were they disappointed? I imagine that you made the
yeah, they were
change in
very,
career.
yeah, they were very disappointed, especially my mom, because she wanted to tell everybody, oh, I have a doctor in the family.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes. And so I changed, and my dad was okay with it because he knew that what the circumstances were. And he wanted me to learn a bit about business as well, and I was for it because I wanted to make my own company. And he thought that he I can actually go to for a job like this, but I was like I was thinking too far, too ahead. I was thinking there are 7 billion people in the world, and are there enough jobs for everybody? That's a question I would ask, and my dad would say like, "You're thinking too far." And then I was not taken into jobs because like the HR would like talk to me for 1 hour, and we would have a brilliant conversation, and they would tell me like I went to a magazine company at first because I'm a good writer, and they said you shouldn't be writing this good articles for a company.
You were
Yeah,
overqualified. Who'd have thunk?
and because I was writing about my own experiences into words, and then they were telling me if you're putting your experiences into words, and if all of this is true, you should probably write your own book, do your own thing.
And you did do that.
Yeah, I did write a book. It's called Unveiling the Truth Behind Catherine's Destiny, because it was true, and it has also information like for young adults, what they want to know, what I needed to know, and I just put it there.
Right. But you kind of changed it around so that you wrote it as if it were a fictional novel when it's really
Yes,
based on your story.
yes,
That's pretty interesting.
it is. And especially like everybody is sort of cynical about destiny and fate and stuff, especially if it's not them, if it's not their fate. And the thing is like so that's why I made it like fiction, because I didn't want to raise any controversial, thoughts. And it's kind of weird because my name is kind of weird as well. It's not like an ordinary name. It has a meaning. It's like a deep meaning. It's like my first name actually means like the heat from the sun.
Really?
Yeah. And my second name is a tree, which is like symbolic for nature.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So it has like two meanings there. And I've been actually now that I think about it, I've been actually hunting down my destiny. That's why I came here. And I did study for like 2 years business. I just needed the courses to actually make my own business, to actually learn how everything is going, because I knew my dad can't afford to pay, because he's whenever he puts me to a university, it's the best university in the world and the most expensive university, because he wants the best for me. And as much as I like him doing that, I also tell him that even just a normal university that is not expensive can provide me the knowledge I need to succeed. But for him, it's a different. He thinks in a different way. And with these tools, like I kind of have this idea to like restructure education, and that's what I want to do, because everybody during the pandemic is all confused about what's going on, and I want to help them. That's why I made
Yes.
the podcast. That's why I made the podcast. I started with the podcast, and when I was in the uni, like everyone kind of knew me, from the dean to the program director to the teachers, because they are recommending me to tutor other people who are facing difficulties. And while they're like even the librarian also gave me a recommendation letter, because I was so good at what I do, because I coach them and I teach them. I treat them like my children, because I don't know. I treat the kids over there like my children, because for me, their knowledge is like lower compared to from where I went. I was studying medicine, so the majority of people in the medical sector are very intelligent people.
Very.
Yeah, and coming to a business school, it's like majority are like there, and
Really?
only few people are smart. Um, yeah, and I have a kind of weird ability, because I attract all the smart people
Lovely. That's
in the
very
group.
helpful. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've been doing that ever since I was a kid. I'm attracting the people who are smart, the people who don't like people who are also kind and who don't fit in, sort of.
lovely. And isn't that interesting? Well,
Yeah.
you attracted some wonderful people in your life then. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you went into business and then you decided that your passion seems to be in your podcast, where you actually help educate people about the pandemic.
Yes.
And you also want to help work with education and help to restructure the
To
way that things are
restructure
run.
it. When you restructure I feel like, because this is what I learned coaching the students in the business sector, is that they didn't know so many things that we knew, because first of all, one thing, when I was 11, I was like writing everything down in a diary about my life. So I was like questioning my own life in my own thoughts, and then finding the answer to it. These people don't do that. And I was like doing a comparison between them.
So writing and self-reflection and working
Yes.
on things like that. That's beautiful. So are those the kinds of things that you would like to incorporate into education? Just that
Yeah.
that writing and that introspection and that self-awareness and that
Yes.
kind of thing? That's lovely. And
And
about your
coaching them, yeah, coaching them.
yes.
If they don't fit in, I want to help them create their own business, find their own talents. I want to understand them. I want to untie their strings, knotted strings. I want to figure them out. I want to help them thrive in this very competitive world. If you're out of the, if you're out of society due to some unfortunate events, that means I want to show them you have another way. The life doesn't end here, and there are people like me of somewhere too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure that you were called to do something that was specific. And it might not be for every person, but like you said, you were attracting a certain kind of demographic. So, are you talking about helping, particularly education in the business sector or all education in general?
Well, education in general. It's kind of weird because, like, I was looking up on people to interview on my podcast. I came across like around 70 people, and after 70 people, I met this incredible woman, and she went to Harvard University, and she told me that she made a book. This again, it's fate. I think that I met her even virtually because she wrote a book, and her book was called The Magical Marble Tree. Okay, and in the picture, the picture in the book was meaning of my name, and she wrote
That's
yeah, she wrote that
crazy.
book. Yeah, she wrote that book as a memoir for her dying mother, a dying mother who pioneered a special type of education previously.
Wow. Okay. So you were meant to connect with this woman and
Yeah,
maybe even continue what she started or
but her mother started. Yeah.
right, what her mother started. That's lovely. Okay. So tell me a little bit about your podcast. And you talk about the pandemic and you talk about educating people. Right now there's a lot of fear. People are fearful. And I'm hoping that you help people to not be afraid and
Yes.
to feel
I,
like it's going to be okay.
yeah, it is going to be okay. It's like the more you know, you will be less afraid. And like because the thing is that like a lot of people have a lot of skepticism, especially about the rulers of the country and how they are governing the country and what's going to happen in the coming days. Is like if you know how to learn, you will eventually evolve, especially into a stage. There's an era that I actually talk about with one of my guests. That's for the episode that's releasing today, and he talks about the era that comes right after the pandemic, and it's a type of new era because we are not going back to how things were right before the pandemic. It's something new because we have a lot of technological advancements. We have a lot of innovations taking place between these years that took place at a faster rate compared to other years. So imagine when you were younger, you thought that there would be streets, there would be streets in the air, flying cars. Actually, they are doing it now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they are testing it now. They are learning how to hover vehicles into the air, and these type of innovations are happening fast at this during this pandemic because people are at home. They are becoming more imaginative, and things are things are happening faster because of this pandemic. So this pandemic was a type of opportunity for people to become creative, and everything is
Lovely.
heading online, and they're kind of alone at the same time. And I think it's a good thing that it's not a punishment that you were taken out of like the group or society to live by yourself and learn to live by yourself, because when you learn to live by yourself you can understand yourself better, because you give a chance to understand yourself better in a more deeper manner. When you're always with people, you're too busy trying to understand them without understanding yourself.
Ooh, that's deep. So we have to learn to understand ourselves first.
Yes,
And that kind of goes back to when you talked about your journaling as a young
yes,
child and that self-reflection and that introspection and trying to figure out
yes,
who you are.
yes.
So it's giving people an opportunity to do that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and like I think, don't think of especially during lockdown, everybody was inside and they thought of it as a punishment, but it's not really a punishment. It's something to be grateful, and this is the time that there would be a great awakening. They will call the great awakening spiritually uh, considering, because people are beginning to see see the world as it truly is. It's like a game. For some people, it's like a game. It's a game to succeed in all areas in life. And some of them finally see it at this stage because they are undergoing some sort of awakening.
That's lovely. Not everyone is having an awakening. Some people are still asleep or they
Yeah,
are just afraid. And
yeah,
so,
and
and you
some of
talked
them,
about how when we have that education, then we change and we evolve. And sometimes we get misinformation, which is quite
yeah,
frustrating. So that I think part of the trick is being able to distinguish what is true. What
yes,
information that we're getting is true, and you're trying to present true information, and where are you reaching to get this true information in your guests and everything?
yeah. So for the vaccination procedure, we kind of learned it in med school itself. So I know like the stages of what a drug is, how a drug or vaccine is like drug classified and how a vaccine is produced. So in 2020, like I would just post random stuff on my Instagram account, just tell. It's like because everybody had like so much of confusion happening from the pandemic. I was like, COVID-19 does exist, because I have talked to my friends who are like med students, and there are doctors who I know, and they tell me that they're getting COVID-19 patients. So the disease does exist. And I was like telling them all of this stuff, what I learn, I'm telling them to my audience. And I used to do this on Instagram because I know like a lot of people actually look at my Instagram stories. So I just told the information. And then when the vaccine came out, at first I was like, this is the first time in history that a vaccine has come out within a short period of time. And I gave them the steps of how a vaccine is produced. First, we have like the preclinical stage where you have animal testing. Then you have the clinical stage where you first test like 10 to 100 healthy humans, and these are voluntary healthy humans. And this period takes 1 to 2 years. The animal testing stage takes 1 to 2 years as well. Then we have the phase two of the clinical stages that you test around 1,000 patients who contain the disease. And again, this happens 3 to 4 years. And then you have a third phase of the clinical phase, which is you test the drug on 3,000 patients who contain the disease. Again, this takes several years, and this is done against a control, so that you kind of measure the way the drug has been absorbed into the body, distributed all throughout, and excreted. You monitor the side effects, and you have a file that you have to fill. It's called the IND application, investigation of the drug. So that application is to do with investigating the drug. And then we have another application called NDA application. That is when the drug has been like approved by the FDA at each stage. Then there's another file that you have to fill. It's like these applications are like 100,000 pages, like so long.
Wow, that's long.
Yeah, yeah. And then goes marketing studies, post-marketing studies before you put it out of the market. And there are strict rules. And I had a pharmacist also to clarify, is this the same thing that you've learned at that stage? And he said, yes, it's the same thing. And it's like me clarifying with other people, because like I haven't received a degree, but like I have like a half MD. So half an MD. My knowledge is like half an MD.
Mhm.
So out of that knowledge, I'm trying to clarify and learn more from doctors as well.
So what you're describing, this process takes like a decade or
It
more in
10
order
to
to be
10
able
to
to find
15 years.
something safe.
Yes.
And yet this process that's supposed to take place was condensed into a year's time, or even a little
A few
less than
months.
a year.
Few
Yeah,
months.
exactly. A few months of trying to get so all the steps obviously were not taken, and all
Yeah.
of the research wasn't done behind. So your impression then on the vaccine is it's probably not the right thing to do? Is that how you're
It's
feeling?
like I feel like at this point, the vaccine, if you are going to consider the vaccine, it's better to give it to the people who already have the disease, like the patients who have the disease. But if you consider yourself healthy, and I also have this in my podcast, for people who have a weak immune system, to just do not take it. I think you have a better risk of surviving without the vaccine, and you have a better risk of surviving by isolating yourself. So people who have the list. I put a list for pregnant people, or people of old age, people who live with catheters, people who have diabetes. They are considered people who have weak immune systems, or people who already have a weak immunity because they have an autoimmune disease, any other autoimmune disease, and that's the list I gave out.
So your
And
recommendation, forgive me, is that if you have a weak immune system, then this vaccine is not actually going to help strengthen your immune system. It actually puts you more at risk. Is that correct?
yeah, yes, and there are files in the FDA website if you have gone, and you have to see the side effects, because like if if something happens from the vaccine, um, you can't go to a lawyer or you can't do anything about it. And so the fault of these pharma companies, you can't do anything about it. So I think it's safe to not take it, especially if you're healthy. And you should always talk and question like your local physician, or talk to an immunologist before taking the vaccine, because I attended so many interns, like I did an internship, like three of them. And during the internship, like I make sure the patient like tells everything about their history of diseases, because before recommending a medication, you have to really find out like what's in their body, what's affecting their body before, and then you have to weigh the benefits and the risk, and then give them a drug, because it's what you're giving them is something artificial, something chemical, and you have to weigh the risk and the benefits and then give it to them.
Right.
It's not something you can play with. That's why there's a recommended dosage, and it's something that you should follow, because these drugs definitely are not good for the body.
Right. There's that list of advantages and
Yes,
disadvantages, and weighing on that scale what is going to be best benefit for you. So
yes,
thank you. That's a lot to think about. So that's kind of what you cover in your podcast, and that's the people that you interview and talk to. And
yes.
that's fantastic. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for visiting with me today, and for sharing your wisdom, and for using your talents to pay it forward, and to be able to find your niche for helping people. I think that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I do help people with who struggle with mental health, because I have struggled with mental health. So I am asked, it usually happens because everybody has a story, and it usually goes back to their childhood. Like I was being bullied for being the weird one, or the person who was the outcast.
Right.
Such. So when I was like three, the first day of school, I remember that a lot of people wouldn't talk to me, because I was this kind of different, unusual kid who just didn't fit into society, and I still don't. fit into society in some way. And yeah, like nothing has changed from that point, especially um, the way I acted. It's like I would just wait, I would try to be social, but nothing was happening. It's like, and again, it's happening for a reason.
Right. And because of the situations and even your interactions, it enables you to maybe take a leadership role and say,
Yeah.
I'm not one of the masses. I am a leader. And
Yes.
I love that innate desire that you have to serve. I have it as well. And I've also started a nonprofit to help people who struggle with mental and emotional issues. And it's called Hope for Healing. So, so we have a lot in common, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful that we are able to connect today and to be able to find those things in common and hopefully be able to combine our efforts to share and to help and serve
Yes.
and lift others. So, again, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Do you want me to go through some of the AC2 receptors, or like how the immune system works in general, or anything about that?
That sounds lovely. Can we do it kind of fast, or how long will that take?
That will be good for another episode as well, because it would take like around 30 minutes.
Wonderful. Then maybe we'll have to have a follow-up because that sounds
Yeah.
like very helpful, useful, specific information.
Yeah.
As we're trying to figure out, as we get so much information, and again, some of it is misinformation, it is very helpful to be able to have some specifics so that we can make our determination and say, hey, this is real. This is a real thing, and this is something that maybe has been exaggerated. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we may have to do a follow-up. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Rashni. I appreciate you
No
being here.
problem.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Sarah Caldwell. She said, learn everything you can, anytime you can, from anyone you can. There will always come a time when you will be grateful you did. Today, I invite you to become a lifelong learner. See you next time on Linda's Corner.